When you touch me, I'm crazy the way you love me.
Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Tuesday, which means we'll be joined by Coach Rob Regish shortly to do the Blueprint Power Hour, where you post your questions, we answer them, and nothing is off topic, and I mean that. Later in the show, we're going to talk to Dustin Baker. If you're not fortunate like me, I have a prescription for growth hormone. I've had it for a long time. And I don't take crazy amounts. I just take 1 IU a day, believe it or not. A lot of people are shocked by that, but that's all you need at my age to enhance recovery and not hold a bunch of water and have any adverse effects, because too much growth hormone can actually make you diabetic, insulin resistant. Later in the show, we're going to show you a way to get real growth hormone into your body without injections. This is legit. I did the research before letting Dustin come on as a sponsor. I required him to send me results from the people who use the product, because this has previously only been available through doctors, and now he's going direct to the public. And I think that if you have any interest in growth hormone at all, you're going to like the second half of today's show. Of course, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that is none other than Legendary Foods, makers of the tasty pastry. If you haven't tried it, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of embarrassed for you, actually, because this tasty pastry is not a protein bar, and it's fast becoming the most popular healthy snack within the fitness community for sure, because it looks like a Pop-Tart, but it has less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, 4 to 5 net carbs if you're a net carb person like me, low carb or keto, and they taste so friggin' amazing. I challenge you to buy them and tell me that they suck. They taste like you're really eating cake. So much so that your kids will love them, and your kids probably hate the protein bars that you choke down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Don't wait too long, because the sooner you try them, the sooner you'll be eating them forever. And without further delay, let me get Coach Rob up here. Play his theme music.
Calling all Blueprint Army. Fall in. It's time for the Blueprint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
I am doing well. Sign me up for that growth hormone. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
I could really benefit, I think.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've always been honest. My audience knows that. I couldn't recover from the workouts I'm doing, especially right now, without some chemical help. So I have an ARX machine. We've talked about it on the show before. I got to be honest that when ARX first came about, I really thought it was just a gimmick. You know, really, really expensive machine. You don't need it. You know, free weights, build muscle. I am a believer. And I'm going to tell you, tomorrow we're doing a show. It's a special time. It's at 6 p.m. because the scientist that's coming on the show published a study. He is from Perth, Australia. And that's like 6 a.m. his time. He's coming on the show. And he just published a study that shows that a 3-second negative is more effective at growing muscle than a regular training session, static holds, or a heavy concentric work.
And you know,
go.
I bet a lot of people hear that and think, no way, a 3 second negative does all that better than, anything else. Arthur Jones said as much, decades ago. And so to the extent that ARX brings more science into strength training, God bless him, man. We need it.
So I do. So one rep is 7 seconds concentric, 7 seconds eccentric. And I'm fighting for both ways. So what I have done is I have taken the ARX machine, and instead of doing one whole body workout a week like they suggest, I'm actually doing a 3 body part split with it now. And I'm doing a 5x5 with it. Like this morning, I trained back. I did 5 sets of back, 5 reps each. Each rep was 7 seconds up, 7 seconds down, fighting every inch of the way. And I did a wide neutral grip pull. I did a narrow neutral grip pull. I did a high pull, palms down. I did a low pull, palms up. And then I did biceps. And I do a preacher bicep by putting my elbows against my knees to keep all of the stress on the bicep and not the shoulder and not the back and all that sort of stuff. And I did 20 minutes of cardio first, did that. That only took me like 20 minutes to do that whole routine because it keeps you on pace. You got to be ready for the next set. Let's go, counts down. I do a 25-second rest in between reps because I want to be as strong as I can for each rep. Sure. Yeah. And then I did a couple sprints on the Airdyne bike, and I was done. In less than an hour, I was smoked. My back is still pumped. And I cannot tell you that since I've been doing this routine, I am getting so much stronger. And it translates to the gym. When I go to the gym and do what I was doing before, I'm like, the weight is just moving so fast. I'm like, what's going on? It's this ARX machine. So this scientist shows that a 3-second negative is more effective building muscle and strength than anything else you can do. I'm doing 7-second negatives in each one of those, 5 reps, 5 sets.
And think about this. How many times have you heard, hey, the strength gains that I'm making on this machine are translating into strength gains in free weights? I mean, you hear it all the time going the other way, almost never, going from the machine to free weights.
We have somebody who spams this show every week. Naked, high def. Hey, bro, just go to my website and jerk off. And I wish there was a way to reach out to him and punch him in his fucking face. That's what I would like to do. I hope you're watching right now because you are a piece of shit.
Yeah,
that's what you are.
Ask him to come on the show.
No, just come to Louisville. Right. So anyway, yes. Doesn't ARX cost over $40,000? It costs about $35,000. Says Horned Frog from YouTube. They're not trying to appeal to you. They're not trying to appeal to home users. Right now, they're at the stage of the game where they're trying to appeal to personal trainers who have their own little gym set up to invest in this machine because you can handle more clients, get better results in less time. And it's legit. Over time, I'm sure that they will have units for home because of the economy of scale. And as they make more of these units, they'll come down in price. But I'm telling you something, they are real. This thing is real. It's not BS. It really is. Let's say hello to some people. So Vera Demiris says hi. Camila Cierzo says she wishes she could stick around, but she can't. So have a great show. And Vera also thought it was funny when I cursed at the guys who are spamming my show. So there you go. But what I wanted to say, and the reason I'm talking about this right now, is I'm using performance-enhancing drugs. I'm 63 years old. There's no way that I could do what I'm doing right now with ARX, with the gym, and recover fast enough to keep doing it if it wasn't here. Here they are again. Yeah, here they are again. Son of a bitch. I keep blocking them. Yeah, they keep coming back.
Are they bots or you think real people?
I don't know if they're bots, if they're real people. I don't know what it is. But they only come to this show every week. But I am using drugs and I am using growth hormone, only 1 IU a day. But believe me, 1 IU a day at 63 years old makes a difference. Makes a difference. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
How are you, Rob? I know you were up late last night. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, my wife was was rushed to the hospital again with some, this time severe abdominal pain. Uh, the doctors came back and said, everything looks good on the test. We're going to discharge you. Well, we were waiting for that, and he came back a few minutes later, and he says, "Hold on, excuse me, radiology folks saw something that they didn't like," and so he said I guess there are arteries running through your intestines. One of them twisted. So obviously, if that pinches the blood supply off, big problems, right? So they decided to keep her. They did emergency surgery right away, and in addition to fixing that issue, they wound up removing her appendix as well as more scar tissue. So we are hopeful she's out of it, out of surgery. She's feeling obviously much better. We don't know when she will be discharged yet, but I will be, needless to say, going to see her as soon as the show closes. Yeah, it makes you stop and think. This is about health. It's not a vanity project.
Andre Kleinhans says, "Hi, Carl and Rob, all the way from Pretoria, South Africa. Thanks for being here, Andre." And then Horn Frog makes a good point. He says, "Can't you get YouTube to delete this guy's account?" No, but YouTube put me on skates for a whole week where I couldn't stream to YouTube because I was spreading medical misinformation just by talking about scientific facts and truth.
Imagine that. They censor us, but they let a clown like
Oh
that.
yeah. But it's okay if he wants to show children having sex with camels. That's okay. YouTube is good with that. They're good with that. Yeah.
Wow.
Richard Miller, we will get to your question. I have some thoughts. Okay, so let's start off with the first question. It comes from Bob Armstrong. He says, "New listener and love the show. If you could only take one thing to build more muscle, what would it be?" Food.
Well, yeah, well, we'll get to that, right? First and foremost, knowledge. Knowledge is the single most important factor in being successful in any endeavor, right? Not just training. Without that, all the tools and toys we talk about are not going to help much. Having said that, the answer about what to take to build more muscle isn't what most people think. It's not steroids, it's not creatine. It has nothing to do with the essential amino acids. The answer, in my opinion, is simple. It's calories. Now, hear me out because I'm about to illustrate why. If you want to train harder and longer, increasing your calories gets you there. You'll have more energy to do it. Not getting results, eating 200 grams of protein a day, double your calories from 2,000 to 4,000 and watch what happens. Better results from the same amount of tests, DECA, D-ball, whatever, more calories is going to do all of that and more. So there isn't a single facet that I can think of the muscle building process, or not many, that is not improved, amplified, or otherwise made easier simply by eating more. And that may sound ridiculously simple, but consider the following. There are studies supporting this. In one of them, study on overfeeding, test subjects that had a fixed protein intake, 1.25 grams per kilogram, but had different total energy intakes, showed that an increase of calories a mere 15% above baseline enhanced nitrogen retention more than threefold. And when energy intake was increased to 30% above maintenance, nitrogen balance rose almost 5 times above baseline. Basically, adding calories to the diet is anabolic, and I'm not just talking about raising insulin levels. You get the whole array, if you will, of anabolic hormones, and importantly, in the correct ratio to each other, the ones that Mother Nature intended. So, overfeeding is not unlike the hormonal response to it anyway, is not unlike what happens during puberty. And it's almost impossible to replicate by arbitrarily, shooting test GH or what have you later in life. If you want more proof, look at the morbidly obese. Most of these people have lots of muscle under that fat.
I was just going to say that when you see really fat people,
Yeah.
what you can't see is the mass of muscle that they've accumulated at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen an obese person with small calves. I don't know about you, but the combination of that massive overfeeding and just lugging around all that extra weight, for years, in some cases decades, it builds muscle. Now, when most people hear this, I think, that you need more calories. I think they know it's the truth. That isn't the problem. The problem, in my experience, is the practical application.
And doing
So,
it consistently for long enough too.
right, exactly. So establishing maintenance calories would obviously be step one. That takes, frankly, that's best done by keeping a food log for 7 days, tallying it up, divide by seven. Unfortunately, most people don't have the patience,
Discipline.
I guess. Yeah,
The
patience.
discipline. That's a discipline. My
Yeah,
nephew and I just had this conversation. I said you got to choose your food sources better, so you don't put on more fat than you need to. People need to understand is if every pound of fat you lose a pound of muscle when you're cutting, especially if
yeah,
you're trying to make a 16-week cut. So I tell him, sweet potatoes, rice, red potatoes, um, green beans, broccoli. You got to eat lots of this stuff to be lean, but continue to build muscle. He doesn't want to do it. He rather eat crap once in a while because it's
yeah.
easier to eat crap.
That's too bad because, as I just tried to say, the potential upside is enormous. I remember when I got to college, I was on the meal plan, and it was the first time I had ever eaten big, so to speak. So it was like somebody stuck an air hose in me, and my muscles just went boom. Now, yeah, I was young, and I had some other things on my side. Had all the time in the world and whatnot, not many responsibilities. But the point stands. I was never bigger and stronger than when I was eating 5,000 calories a day consistently. And so, even if you're lazy, I'll offer this in establishing maintenance calories. For most people, or many, body weight times 15 is close, right? So, for a 200-pound person, that's 3,000 calories a day. I'm definitely not the math guy, so double check this. But you've got 3,000 calories a day maintenance. Now you add 20% more, and you get 3,600. Some people may need upwards of 4,000 or more, right? That's 35% above that maintenance figure. So the question becomes, and this is the big one: how do you hit that consistently? And I've always maintained, and I always will, drinking 1,000 calories is a lot easier than eating them, right? It's basically pre-digestion. Uh, I would ask that you also buy at least two thermoses. One goes with you with that drink everywhere during the day. The second is a backup because obviously, one is going to be in the dishwasher at some point. But here's the bottom line: you can't overfeed forever, but it is the single most powerful thing you can do to grow muscle. And it's usually, more often than not, what people are missing. So make sure you get and stay on top of that. And like you said, do it consistently. I'm willing to bet you're going to be amazed at how much easier building muscle is.
Well, look at cows, right? 6 months out before they sacrifice a cow. Sure, they give them trenbolone, but they up their calories and they increase their corn.
Yeah.
And they put on a pound of muscle a day. They up their calories. Even if they don't up their calories, the trenbolone does nothing
Yeah,
at
and
all.
that's not too much different than people, right?
Of course. The other thing is, if you feel like you just don't have the appetite, invest in a $40 bottle of GHRP6. Go to peptidesciences.com. Use the code SHR10. You'll save 10% off. And buy a vial of GHRP6, reconstitute it, and just use 125 micrograms 15 to 20 minutes, 15 minutes before every meal. You'll not only be hungry, but it'll make you digest the food faster and you'll be prepared to eat again in 3 hours.
That's a great point. It's a powerful thing to have. We didn't have that, right? There was
No,
no GHRP6 way back when. So, I'd set my wristwatch every 2 hours, it beeped. It's time to eat, whether you're hungry or not. So, GHRP6, absolutely. Whatever makes it easier. Whatever makes it easier.
and it increases peristalsis, it increases the digestive process, it moves the food through. It's called a gastric prokinetic, and it makes you hungry.
And
It's
you get
like every elderly person should have GHRP6 because they stop eating when they get old, and that's why they become frail.
and you get the GH boost without the
Well, you may not get a GH boost because without growth hormone releasing hormone paired with it, you may not get the GH boost. But who cares?
right.
That's not what you're doing it for at that point. All right, the next question comes from Lars Anderson. He said, I keep seeing ads for various essential amino acid blends. I recall you saying some EAA formulas don't contain all 9 essential amino acids. Going back to the time when you rolled out Synthogen, are things still like that? And what should we be looking for?
It's still a sad fact that many essential amino acid formulas that are still on the market don't contain all 9 essential aminos. When researching this, I started poking around online. Sure enough, there are more than a few. The situation, I will say, is better today than it was a decade ago when I originally made that point. But you still need to be careful. The essential amino formulas without all, or missing one or more, they come up short in at least one essential amino. It's usually tryptophan. So look at your formula and make sure that's in there. Companies will typically substitute arginine, tyrosine. I've seen agmatine, 5-HTP. Those are all fine things, but
But they're not essential amino acids.
they're not the essential amino acid. So that's a problem. You will also hear that just consuming the branch chain aminos can work against you. And in my opinion, that would be quite the understatement because it does a lot of not so great things as we know now, but it halts muscle growth in its tracks because it is very well established that the absence of just one essential amino stops protein synthesis in its tracks. Think about that. Just one. So make sure your formula has all 9 and whatever other bells and whistles they want to put on it, fine. But it's got to have those. It's got to have those 9. Now, you've heard me say ratios matter, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's the truth and it's worth playing around with them, the essential aminos, to get better results. Many people still doubt that. They're doubting Thomas's, but the truth is, if you peruse the literature, you can go back to the 1960s. They were doing studies with optimized ratios of essential aminos in various animals, showing big differences. So one study I looked at, this was done in 67, I think. It showed that chicks, given a very specific ratio of essential aminos, showed 25% better muscle growth. Now, yeah, chicks are not people, but it serves to illustrate my point. Ratios matter. Those animal studies formed the base from which the human studies that have been done since were conducted, of which there are quite a few showing the efficiency or efficacy rather of essential amino acids. Also, when you're shopping for them, you're going to hear a lot about leucine. It would be helpful to remember the following point about leucine. There is a permissive, I'll call it, level of leucine that occurs in most animal-rich protein foods. And that figure, to do all the wonderful things it does with mTOR, etc., is around 2.5 to 3 grams. So
Per serving.
per serving.
Yeah, which takes about 30 grams of whey protein, which is very high in leucine, but meat may be a little lower.
Yeah, and obviously it differs for other foods. So Hence my point about knowing that threshold. So for most people that are using a commercial off-the-shelf essential amino acid formula, it is best, at least per the literature, to stick with at least 6 grams of essential aminos, and that taken before the workout. That's been shown in human studies to result in a very large increase in protein synthesis. And if you think about that, so 600% when taken before the workout, but when those same 6 grams were taken after the workout, it was 400%. So 200% difference, right? What does this tell us? It tells us that, once again, like the ratios, little things like timing matter, and they matter a lot, right? That's a big difference over time, especially. So here's the bottom line: essential aminos are still the number one supplement you should be spending money on. And I'm more convinced now than I was 10, 12 years ago when I started talking about it. The upside on these things is even bigger than originally thought. And I'm convinced you're going to see that bear out in the literature in the future.
I'm going to go ahead and go to a live question from Richard Miller.
Sure.
Let me get back here. Bear with me a second. So Richard says that he has a client whose mother has been diagnosed with an enlarged heart on Friday. Doctors say possibly due to COVID. She's in her 60s, no high blood pressure, no diabetes, but she is obese. He says, what do you suggest for her next steps should be? Because the doctor gave no advice, just said, let's watch it, and any help would be appreciated. And then he messaged later on, and she is also unvaxxed. Well, that's
Okay.
good. So at least we know it's not from the vaccine.
Right. So obviously cardiac issues, enlargement of the heart can and cannot be problematic, right? We know athletes, for example, have left ventricular hypertrophy. It's no big deal. It's still a healthy heart.
It's considered a physiological change. So you have physiological and pathological changes. Pathological changes are due to disease states. Physiological changes are changes in the heart due to the workload that you're giving it.
Yeah, and that brings me nicely to my answer, which is he used the term what should her next steps be? Her next steps should be just that, walking.
Walking.
Walking has benefits that are, they're beyond the scope of the time that we have here, but it's prudent. It will also tell you a lot about her work capacity and the capacity of her heart and other muscles to deal with external stress such as training. But from that base, you can make I think, a much better judgment as to what to do after that. But until you have her walking, let's say, a mile.
Yeah, no, but she's obese and if she has this problem,
Yeah.
I'm willing to guess that her walking a mile is very, very far in the future.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest to her is just stand during the TV commercials. I'm sure she sits and watches television a lot. Have her stand during TV commercials. When that becomes very easy, lifting herself out of the chair, putting herself back and standing, have her start walking around the sofa during TV commercials. You got to start really baby steps with somebody like her, because if she gets, okay, I'm going to go take a walk, she'll drop dead during that walk. So you got to really ease it up. The other thing is pathological hypertrophy of the heart responds very favorably to copper supplements. So get her a good chelated copper supplement, have her start taking copper. There's a good study that shows that when they put an aortic clamp on rodents, which causes enlargement of the heart and weakening of the walls, which is the pathological type, that copper reversed it. So that's the other thing. But absolutely, she needs to gently start moving more.
Right.
Gently. Whatever she's doing now, she just needs to do a modicum more. Like I said, sometimes it's just standing during the TV commercials for her favorite shows. That's it.
Good advice.
Yeah. And really, that will help her. It's going to take time, but she can't expect to do this for a month and go to the doctor and he goes, oh my God, your heart looks great. No. It's going to take time. But
Progressive.
really, like Rob said, getting her to the point where she's walking a mile and she'll live a long time.
Longer.
One Frog has a question, but we have to take a break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to the pre-recorded, the previous sent-in questions. Go to CoachRobRegish.com today and get this information at your fingertips all the time. We'll be right back with more. Stay tuned. You are watching and listening to Superhuman Radio. Don't forget, share the show. Share it now. We'll be right back. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High quality, pasture raised, great tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose to tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code superhuman to save 10% off your entire first order. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/lostempire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut, and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. We got lots of good questions during the live show here today. So we're going to get to everybody's question, including Chris K's.
Great.
So Horn Frog says, my 58-year-old brother was recently diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer. Cancer cells are on his spine, lymph nodes, shoulder, and ilium. Thoughts on hormone deprivation drugs? Horrible idea. Horrible idea. Androgen deprivation therapy does nothing for the quality of life or the lifespan of people who have metastatic cancer. If anything, it's going to make him completely diabetic, insulin resistant. He's going to put on so much visceral fat that he'll become an inflammation factory. But this is all doctors have to offer. If you go to PubMed or go to Google and Google prostate cancer, aggressive prostate cancer, testosterone, Denmead, DENMEADE, NIH, you will find 4 different studies by Dr. Samuel Denmead, who is completely curing the most aggressive metastatic prostate cancers by giving men supraphysiological doses of testosterone, exactly the opposite of androgen deprivation therapy. Now, keep in mind, metastasis can be controlled by going on a strict ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet where you're eating high fat, moderate protein, and no carbs. That has been shown to stop metastasis in its tracks. Now, will it make the tumor grow or shrink? Not necessarily. But Dr. Denmead's therapy approach with high doses of testosterone, and what he does is he gives a man about a 400 to 500 milligram shot of Test-Sip, and then he lets it trail down until there's nothing left. Usually about a month and a half later, he gives another shot. It is this pulse, that causes the prostate cancer to go away. Now, think about it. This pulse is mimicked by the daily production and cessation. Every day, you see this pulse. 6 a.m. in the morning, by bedtime, it's down. 6 a.m. in the morning, by bedtime. So what he's basically done, he's taken men who are not producing enough testosterone to begin with, and he's giving them a major pulse and then just lets it disappear, and it reverses the prostate cancer. Bring that to your doctor. If your doctor says, no, all I do is ADT, find another doctor. Every man I have ever met, and I've met several, who are on ADT, were on it for the rest of their lives and wish they were dead. They wish the cancer would have killed them. They get big bloated bellies. They shuffle through life. They feel horrible. And every time they go to the doctor, their PSAs are up. They're, we gotta be more aggressive. It's horrible. It's barbaric to do that to a man. Get in touch with Dr. Denmead. Reach out to him. Ask him to talk to your doctor.
I would concur with that. Personally, it's very concerning to me that there are still a lot of doctors that consider, testosterone feeds cancer. It grows it. It does this. It does that. When all of the available evidence, the journals that they're supposed to be reading, says otherwise, right? So absolutely, I'd 100% agree with that. The ketogenic diets, there are other things you can look into. IP6, inositol hexaphosphate, has a really good track record in terms of combating some cancers. But the most important point I'll make is this. My wife has a friend who was diagnosed with a quote-unquote terminal cancer 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 100% fatal. Nothing you can do. They sent her home, nothing you can do. The cancer's gone. She was on a ketogenic diet. She trained. She did everything that all of us do. And she has been in remission now for years. They could no longer find any trace of it. And this was a cancer deep in her brain. Glioblastoma?
Blastoma, yeah. Glioblastoma, okay. Glioblastoma or myoblastoma?
I think myo. In any case, the point remains. Never take the words, there's nothing you can do. Never, ever believe that.
What there's nothing you could do means we
Me,
don't have anything we can offer you.
right. Or I'm too
Doesn't mean
lazy
that there's
to
nothing that can help you. It means I don't have anything that'll help you.
right. It's also translated as, I don't have time to look into your problem. I'm not sick, so what do I care? Right? I mean, that's unfortunately a lot of what you get. In our healthcare system today, one of the truest statements you'll ever hear is this: you need to be your own best advocate.
And Hornfrog says what is surprising is that his PSAs are only 1.9, and this is why PSAs mean nothing. Doctors take aggressive action because a man's PSAs are high. Do you know that prostate-specific antigen has been found in breast cancer?
Imagine
Wait,
that.
you mean it doesn't just belong to the prostate? Come on, man. This is these approaches, these standards of care when it comes to cancer are horrible. If you don't question your doctor, you are putting yourself at greater risk.
Excellent point.
Let's take this other question that's live, and then we'll get back to the scripted ones. Chris K says, any thoughts on what causes low progesterone in men and how to raise it? I'm on TRT therapy, and estrogen isn't too elevated. Also, any thoughts on DIM? The TRT is causing it. So what happens to men is they go on HRT or testosterone replacement therapy. They feel amazing for about 8 months. And then all of a sudden, they don't feel as amazing. And then they start to notice their hair is thinning. The testes also make progesterone. So when they stop making testosterone, they also stop making progesterone. So there's one of two ways you can handle this. You can either get a prescription for HCG, human chronic gonadotropin, and take 120 IUs a night, or you can go for the traditional 500 IUs twice a week, but I would recommend using Dr. Chrysler's protocol, 120 IUs a night, and you will start producing your own progesterone again. Or you could just take a progesterone supplement. It's entirely up to you. Any thoughts, Rob?
No, that basically covers it. I think you're much more well versed in the hormone side of things. The one thing I will say is this, or I guess I have a question as to why the DIM, diindole methane. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I'm just curious as to what the
Yeah,
goal there is.
DIM is more of a estrogen disposal agent. It increases estrogen receptors in the liver and gets your body to flush the estrogen out more frequently.
Okay.
DIM, I wouldn't use DIM because you have progesterone issues. No.
Right. So there's DIM and the other, let's see, there's a related compound, indole 3-carbinol. I don't know if it's the same mechanism or not, but basically the same answer that you just gave. It's probably not going to.
Get your doctor to write you a prescription for human chorionic gonadotropin. It's a fertility peptide, 120 IUs a night. Give it about a week, and your body will be producing more progesterone again, because that acts like luteinizing hormone. It tells the testes not only produce testosterone, but the other ancillary hormones produced in a man's testes that are traditionally produced in a woman's ovaries.
It'll
Okay.
probably be in the right ratios.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill Kologi says you've talked about intensity being the most important training fundamental, yet at the same time, you've said a certain amount of volume is necessary for growth. Then last week, you said Mike Menser said volume is always a negative. Yeah, when you're doing that kind of training. Plus, you talk quite a bit about frequency. Assuming all of this is correct, how the hell do you put together a workout with all that conforms to all of these issues?
Well, I'm not so sure that they do they do conform to all of them. I think the first thing you need to keep in mind is these kind of absolute statements are difficult to work with. And so while it's true that I consider intensity as the most important of the three training fundamentals, training, volume, and frequency, that doesn't mean it can't coexist with the other two. So let's address intensity first. It's clear that some amount of high intensity work is needed to stimulate the adaptive response that we're after. So if you can just imagine, as an example, the physique of a sprinter and the physique of a long distance marathon runner, right? Obviously the sprinter's got big muscles, due in large part to the fact that he doesn't work long, but it's very very intense, right? In that sprint. Assuming that building muscle is the goal, low intensity or especially low intensity done for long durations is bad news. So think about this because it's a lot of guys fall into this trap. If your workout's 3 hours long, in my opinion, you've got a problem to address, right? Long distance runners, they run for hours. Strength trainers, shouldn't be training, in my opinion, for 3 or more hours. It's just too much. After a certain point, there are diminishing returns. One of the things that you do need to do is quantify intensity. And there are any number of ways that you can do it. You can do it as a percentage of your one rep max, expressed as total tonnage, weight times rep times sets.
Intensity must have time as one of the factors. So you could do your one rep max one time. That's not intensity. If you do your one rep max 10 times in 15 minutes, now you are starting to explore intensity.
Right. And so there are a number of ways that you can go about satisfying the intensity requirement, let's say. No stimulus, though, like that, if the intensity is not strong, intense enough, your muscles have no reason to grow. From this, it's clear that to accomplish, let's say, a one rep max, as you just pointed out, you have to perform, at least some volume. And although one rep, I guess, could be considered that first step in that volume, it's not going to grow muscle. It's much more an exercise in, cultivating a sharp central nervous system that's able to contract large amounts of muscle mass simultaneously. So, there is no intensity, so to speak, without at least some volume. Doing it once, and not not doing it again, obviously, is not going to cut it, which brings us to fundamental number three, frequency. To grow significant amounts of muscle, you need to regularly, on a regular, consistent basis, um, do that. Right? Get in the gym and trigger muscle growth through that high intensity workout. So, as an example, when I train someone to put together these workouts, I specify and use, and I do this in my own training, at least two different measurements of intensity, what I call alpha strength and beta strength. Alpha strength is like one rep max type strength. There are loading patterns for that, multiple sets, multiple reps. But at the end of the day, at the end of the loading pattern, it gets you to a new, heavier one rep max. The beta strength, on the other hand, is total tonnage. It's taking the weight that you use on the exercise times the reps times the sets, and that gives you a very large number, right? Let's say 10,000 pounds total tonnage. The next step, and a critical step, I think, is to look at that in terms of what's sometimes referred to as a power factor. So if it takes you 10 minutes to move 10,000 pounds, that gives you a number, 1,000, right? 1,000 pounds per minute is what you have asked your muscles to do. Regularly upping that figure is the goal. The question really becomes, especially in the case of frequency, how often? In my opinion, auto regulation of both the volume and the frequency is best accomplished by setting, let's say, a time limit within which to work. So you've got, let's say, 20 minutes to work this muscle group, or when the trainee reaches a point in that 20 minutes where performance decreases. And that might mean the barbell slows down. That might mean your reps drop, 10 or 15%. Cut it then and run with it. It's not going to do you any good to go further and further. So here's the bottom line, I guess, when throwing these workouts together, or trying to. Begin by establishing 2 gauges of intensity. Let your performance in the gym dictate optimal volume and frequency. Your body's going to tell you how much volume is too much. Your body's going to tell you how many times a week to train is too much. you're going to find the latter, how frequently you can train productively, and that's a big qualifier. Anybody can go into the gym every single day. A lot of people do. Doesn't mean they had a productive workout. Big difference. That's usually, that frequency is the toughest nut to crack because it incorporates a very large number of moving targets. So your age, how you slept last night, how you're eating, um, how heavy the training load is, whether you're using anabolics or supplements. All of that plays into how productively can I train and how much can I do within that training session. It takes a lot of experimentation and frankly noodling around and brain damage to put together one of these workouts, but it is well worth the effort because, as I tried to say last week, the lesson that I was taught when I was young was it's not enough to train hard. You need to train hard and you need to train smart. And figuring out intensity, volume, and frequency is the answer to that. If you ever plateau, your answer is in one of those three fundamentals.
Well, and there's one more here to go full circle to an earlier question about diet. Science has shown, we talked about this study probably about 3 years ago on the show, there is no such thing as overtraining. There is only under eating. So if you're training hard and you want to bump your intensity and you want to bump your workload and you don't also bump your calories, just forget about it. Don't even do it.
There's our calories.
Don't even do
right?
it. So there's our calories again. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Later in the show, we're going to talk about an alternative to growth hormone. If you're not lucky like me and have a prescription, I have a solution for you. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called True Kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, Kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True Kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/true kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today. Over 30 million men experience a form of erectile dysfunction. Meet Eddie, a device designed to help men strengthen and maintain their erections. Based on 2021 clinical trials, over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie instead of relying on costly pills and experiencing side effects. I checked out Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. Eddie offers free resizes and the product works. Sign up for a subscription and save $20 off your first device with promo code SUPER20. That's SUPER20. A 60-day guarantee can't be beat. Treat ED with Eddie. Eddie by Giddy at shrnetwork.biz/Eddie. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. More than 240 million Americans take supplements daily in pill form, but poor nutrient absorption means the promised results are rarely achieved. Healthy Cell uses a clinically proven patent-pending gel delivery system that increases absorption by 165% over pill form. Go to shrnetwork.biz/healthycell. That's HEALTHYCELL today and use the code SHR to save 20% off your purchase of Healthy Cell supplements. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Hey, welcome back. We have the blueprint tip of the day, and there's one question I'm going to jam in at the end of the blueprint tip of the day, and it's going to be a fast one, but I want to get to it because it's a short answer. So, Rob, what is the blueprint tip of the day?
Well, tip of the day is it really is about health. So many of you listening, especially very young folks, teens and 20s, I'll say, probably train just to look good. And why not, right? Because I always thought one of the coolest things about strength training was that if you didn't like the way you looked, you could change it within reason, but you could physically change the way you looked if you worked hard enough and you knew what you were doing. Human body capable of amazing transformations, right? Especially a young one that responds to training and diet tweaks. So training to look good certainly is a valid construct, and if it keeps you training as the decades roll by, all the better. But there will come a day when looking good gives way to feeling good, staving off illness, and generally speaking, preserving your quality of life. That point, once again, hit home yesterday. I told you my wife was rushed to the ER with severe abdominal pain. They did every test in the book. They thought they found what was wrong. They performed emergency surgery and found some other things wrong. And fortunately, she sounds like she's going to be okay. But I have to tell you, when we were originally told that we would be discharged, she would be discharged around midnight. She, of course, was ecstatic. You're going home, right? Why not? I wasn't so much because I was worried. And I had good reason to be worried because right around this time, 3 years ago, my friend Doug went to the same hospital with many of the same issues. And he was discharged, and he went to bed, and he never got up. He had just turned 50 years old. So I was, believe it or not, relieved that they found these problems, and even more, I guess, when they performed the surgery. She's still in the hospital, but hopefully coming home soon. I'm going to go see her right after the show. Now, here's what you really need to know. This wasn't her first rodeo. She had many a close call, almost a dozen abdominal type surgeries. And by the grace of God and a lot of hard work, she came away relatively unscathed. Some doctor said to her once, hey, you're lucky. You're really lucky. No, he's wrong. Luck has nothing to do with it. She pulled through all of these things because she works hard. She has a lot of discipline, makes a lot of sacrifices. Like
She's up at 4 a.m. and she goes to the gym, right?
she's out the door before I'm awake just to make sure she gets her workout in, right? And so always, what could have been cancerous was benign, and so on and so forth. And so it has nothing to do, in my opinion, about luck. It's doing all of those things and doing them consistently. She takes care to eat well. She, unprocessed foods, low glycemic foods. She knows what her blood pressure is at all times. The sleep issue is probably her biggest, but she tries to prioritize it. And she takes all of the protective nutrients that we talk about here: ginger, ashwagandha, curcumin. None of that is cheap. None of it is easy, but it's what you need to do to not only look good on the outside, but feel good, be healthy on the inside, and enjoy a better quality of life. To beat the odds and keep beating them over and over and over. You don't think about this stuff in your teens and 20s, but know this: everything you do, the training, the diet, the antioxidants, and the other health supplements that you take can and will make a difference in how well, or even if, you live life, right, in your later years, like she and I are doing. So don't let anyone ever tell you, like my dad tried to tell me, you're wasting your time and money with that bodybuilding stuff. He could not have been more wrong. And believe you me, he's paying for it now. My wife isn't. She's overcome everything that life has thrown at her. It really, that word overcome, it reminds me of Jordan France, friend of the show, right?
Right.
Shout out to you, brother. Talk about overcome. He's the benchmark. He's the measuring stick. So train hard to look your best, but know this: every positive thing you do now, every sacrifice you make, is an investment in your future, and it's a future and quality of life that will be largely determined by what you're doing now. It's been said, the wise man invests in himself, the foolish man invests in all around him. And it's so true. So go now and invest in yourself and never look back.
Okay, last question, because then we got to get Dustin Baker on.
Sure.
R. Vasquez 818 is a friend of the show, always listens live, real fast. He's asking about pre-workout supplement. 6 grams of EAAs is best before workouts. What about taking a teaspoon of honey pre-workout to blunt my workout? Thank you. Okay. Honey is just sugar, contrary to what the cute girl at Whole Foods tells you. The best sugar for a pre-workout is something called D-ribose. They give D-ribose to people who have congestive heart failure. It keeps their heart beating. The heart loves D-ribose, so much so that it's expensive. But if you're going to take a sugar, because all sugars are the same, you may as well just scoop, the white sugar out of your tea bowl there and throw it in your mouth instead of honey. Honey's got no special magic when it comes to this, but D-ribose does. If you want to use a sugar pre-workout that will actually allow you to train longer and harder, because it will make your heart work better, and your heart has a negative feedback loop to your brain that says, oh, let's not push too hard. We're getting in a dangerous zone here. Take 5 to 10 grams of D-ribose before your workout. And Andre Kleinhounds, who is listening from Pretoria, South Africa, says, thinking of you and your wife, Coach Rob, we will be praying for a speedy recovery. Thank you so much, Andre. And that's it for the Blueprint Power Hour. Don't forget, go to CoachRobRegish.com to learn more. And we will see Rob next week on Tuesday. Right, Rob?
Great. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Take care. And we're going to take one quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your answer for growth hormone. Stay tuned. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% 15% off your entire first order.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/lost empire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects, and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Hey, welcome back, and welcome to Dustin Baker. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm great, Carl. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So everybody on the show knows that I've been using growth hormone for a while. I don't use insane amounts like some bodybuilders do. I just use 1 IU a day. But at 63 years old, 1 IU a day makes a big difference to my recovery. It improves my quality of sleep. It does so many things for me. I couldn't train as hard as I train if growth hormone wasn't something I exploit. But not everybody can get a prescription for growth hormone. And many doctors are afraid to even prescribe it because of the Barry Bonds phenomenon, that they would prescribe growth hormone for a patient and somebody's going to come and say, hey, you're a steroid mill. And so what is an average person to do?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm going to segue. Now, I want to make sure that people understand this, that BioPro Plus was only available through physicians. Up until just recently, you've decided to start to go direct to the public. Isn't that true?
That is correct, yes.
And how long has BioPro Plus been available through physicians to their patients?
We've been making our formulas since 2009. Okay. So we're well over a decade.
And those doctors test those patients who buy BioPro Plus through them for their IGF-1 levels, which is the big indicator of growth hormone. So when they test, would you say 100% of people see a rise in growth factors, or is it are there some non-responders? Talk about that.
So IGF-1 is an easy test benchmark for anybody using any growth hormone, right? Because growth hormone is literally transformed into insulin growth factor 1 after it hits the liver. So that's what your body's getting. Your body's getting growth factor. So IGF-1 is the very easiest way to test for a response from products like that, products like ours. Does every physician test for IGF-1 specifically for our product? I have no idea. There's been literally thousands of physicians across the world at this point that have carried our products. So I can't answer to that. To the physicians that we have really good relationships with that are very vocal, yeah, they test for IGF-1 all the time. That's part of their, I mean, you go in for any type of hormone test when you're not feeling great, they're going to run you through a panel of tests. IGF-1, if you're not getting tested for IGF-1 and you're listening to what we're talking about and your doctor hasn't done that, you should probably ask for it, because it's commonly overlooked for physicians who don't specialize in this type of stuff, and patients are missing out.
So IGF-1 is the primary metabolite of growth hormone. It's really the heavy lifter, let's call it. And it's responsible for tissue repair, which is very, very important as you age. One of the reasons young kids can injure themselves, break a bone, heal quickly is because they're literally IGF-1 parties. They have so much IGF-1 because they're still growing that the body repairs very, very quickly. IGF-1 also can produce other fractions of itself, like IGF-1 EC, which is also known as mechanogrowth factor, which has direct effect on muscle tissue and bone, soft tissue, and so on. And IGF-1 has the ability to stimulate chondrocyte production. This means that if you're somebody who's been told by your physician, you're probably going to need a knee replacement someday, you've got arthritis, you will see the greatest benefits from upregulating IGF-1 because it literally makes cartilage regrow. We had Dr. Alan Dunn on this show, who has since passed away. I'm very sad. Who had a website called Intra-Articular Growth Hormone, and he was actually injecting growth hormone directly into the knees, ankles, joints in the hand of athletes and regular people. And in 6 months, cartilage regrew and they didn't need knee replacement. So this is how powerful IGF-1 is. If you take it and it gets to all of your cells, it will make your hair grow better. It will make your nails grow better. It will make your skin look younger. It takes time. Doesn't happen overnight, but usually around a few weeks to a few months, most people start to notice this. As you age, IGF-1 also keeps you lean. It allows you to burn fat faster. In fact, IGF-1 shifts mitochondrial substrate utilization to triglycerides and fats. So your mitochondria goes, we want to burn fat. Literally, this is what it does. It's magic, and it goes away as you hit 40 and 50 and 60. You probably have very little. Doctors should be testing for it, but they don't. Now, the only way to get IGF-1 is to take growth hormone. Until now. Talk about your product and how it increases IGF-1 production in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I'm actually really blown away. I do a ton of these interviews now, and I do a ton of this kind of PR stuff. And I'm really blown away, Carl. Like, yeah, I was listening to the show and I was listening to you, and I believe his name was Rob earlier. And you guys know your stuff, man. You guys are really impressive, especially from, I mean, to be able to communicate across the board on how much you guys are talking about. And then you jump into stuff like IGF-1 and growth factor use. I mean, Carl, I'm legitimately impressed. It's actually really, I was listening to the show. I'm like, man, this is awesome. This is cool stuff.
And hopefully you'll listen more often, because we do some great. Good.
I will. That guy, I came from a training background, and I worked with athletes through my, later 20s and through my 30s professionally. And man, Rob's, that guy's spot on. He knows exactly what he's talking about. Super smart guy. But so the question was, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Supplement and how it works, the pathway, the function. Yeah. Okay,
cool. So it's really important to know that growth factors like IGF-1 are naturally present in your body. Just like you were saying, Carl, like when you're younger, they're at a super high level. These are normal, they're called protein cytokines. They're just cell signaling devices, but those are normal. These are normal things in your body. They're not added later that you don't already have. The reason why I'm saying that is because the common knowledge, as you previously just described, with things like human growth hormone or even IGF-1 that are now available in direct peptides is a cool word that people use now, is through some sort of synthetic drug or an injection. So they hear these words and they're already like, a lot of the population is taken aback because people aren't always interested in taking a needle, an injection, even a pharmaceutical drug, especially these days. A lot of people are interested in quote unquote alternatives. So they don't realize that these products naturally are already in your body. So as a mammal, you can legitimately extract these protein cytokines, these growth factors from another mammal, and you can ingest them as a human being a mammal, and you can take them directly into your bloodstream. So what we do is, instead of taking and creating a synthesized drug, we extract these growth factors from mammalian tissue, so living, breathing mammalian tissue, and then you can ingest them as a human because they are what are called bioidentical or molecularly identical to exactly what your body already produces, and you can take them directly. And because they are molecularly identical and they are not a synthetic drug, they do not cause the same side effects, if you experience any, from the synthetic drug. And you do not need a needle to inject them. And I want to say, first and foremost, like, I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. I'm not against synthetic growth hormone. It's just not for everybody. Some people like to try something where they don't have to take a needle. And frankly, in today's market, for anybody that's in the medical field, they'll understand this. Human growth hormone is very expensive. It's very expensive, and it's very difficult to get without certain prescriptions or from certain specialized physicians. And if you don't have that, I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars a month. In California, this can a really good human growth hormone treatment. I was just on the phone with a gentleman yesterday, a couple days ago. And they're charging him like $8,000 a month. Now, is that at the high end? Yeah, but it's $8,000 a month for a synthesized human growth hormone treatment.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's ridiculous what they've done with growth hormone as far as the prices go. It's just gouging. That's all it is, because it doesn't cost that much to make growth hormone. However, so these peptides, these growth hormone peptides that you extract, they have no material from the original tissue. As you said, they are bioidentical, which means that they don't bring anything with them that people should be concerned about.
Correct. So our formula is 13 different growth factors. So IGF-1 being the most prevalent in the formula, we include 12 other growth factors as well. That I love when you're talking about cartilage and soft tissue maintenance. Any serious athlete, especially an athlete that's aging, we'll talk football specifically, but the main injuries in football are head, hip, and knee. And if you fortify those joints, just like Rob was saying earlier, it's all about preemptive maintenance, for lack of a better term. If you fortify those joints, or they're always being rebuilt or structured or as strong as humanly possible, you don't actually experience those. You can take different hits. You can take different, your body will adjust to different issues or problems prior to it being a huge problem. So a lot of the other growth factors we include, like platelet-derived growth factor, which is a huge one, will help to accelerate and strengthen the healing of those joints. The cartilage, the ligaments, the tendons, any of that soft tissue is heavily fortified and or accelerated in a healing environment from taking on these growth factors that you are slowly making less of every single year. Every day you wake up, your levels go down and down and down. That's what aging literally is. So all we're trying to do is stop the clock on aging, maybe even turn it back to when you started, when you felt your best in your 20s, in your early 30s, if not before that.
Okay, is there vascular endothelial growth factor or fibroblast growth factor in this?
Both are present within the system. The cool thing is, and what I'd like to touch on is, since you brought up VEGF or vascular endothelial growth factor, that is for anybody who knows what that is, or you're an athlete, your red flag should go up in your head saying, "Oh, I can't take that," and they're right, because in a synthesized world, or in a quote unquote blood doping world, right? For endurance athletes, that is something you should be concerned with, because those things pop drug tests and they are performance enhancing drugs. That is the beauty of BioPro Plus, is that because it's not a synthesized drug and it's naturally occurring that we're extracting, there's no popping of a drug test, and it's not technically a banned growth factor for use.
Right. And it's important to talk about this. So real growth hormone, injectable growth hormone like I use, is only one form of recombinant growth hormone. It's the 191 amino acid version. Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale came on this show probably 10 years ago, maybe longer, maybe 12. And he talked about the pituitary produces so many different forms of growth hormone, but for some reason, modern medicine is zeroed in on 191. And when you take an abundance of 191, its ratio with all the other growth hormones gets out of whack. That's how they test to see if you're using growth hormone. But if you're taking the full panoply of growth factors as they naturally occur in mammals, then the ratios stay the same and there's no red flags. Because, see, growth hormone, when you take a shot of growth hormone, it literally disappears like smoke into the air. And if all these other metabolites appear. But when you only take the 191, you see a rise in the downstream metabolites related to 191. You don't see a rise in any of the other metabolites associated with, there's actually a 192, there's actually a 97. You don't see those. And that's how they know you're using growth hormone. It's not, they can't detect the growth hormone. They can detect the signature that you're using only this one. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that with especially in sports, of how they actually test for drugs, is that you're absolutely right. I mean, I can't say any better. They're not testing for like the synthetic drug that's magically there. What they're testing for is abnormalities. So they're looking for, like, if you're taking a TRT supplement or supplement or drug, they're looking for like some dude who's flying through the roof, right? His levels are off the charts. So that's how those flags come up, and then you have potential issues. With BioPro Plus, because it's bioidentical, or it's molecularly identical to what your body's taking, it doesn't have the ability to send you through the roof. It doesn't have the ability to turn you. I always like to say, it doesn't have you. You're not going to turn into the Hulk, right? Like, you're not going to take a vial of BioPro Plus, turn green, turn into Hulk, and blast through the brick wall. Because what we're trying to do, or what we do is we maximize your body's natural ability to for output, for power output, for life, for anti-aging, not necessarily send you through the roof on some, you're just going to wake up one day and you're going to, you went from Bruce Banner to the Hulk. It doesn't work like that.
And I'm glad you said this. People mistake growth hormone as frankly anabolic, and it's not. You're not going to build muscle per se on growth hormone. It's not an anabolic, but what it is a strong recovery agent. And the premise that growth hormone can make you bigger and stronger is extrinsic. It's not from the tissue repair side, but because of the tissue repair side, you can train more frequently. You are more recovered when you get back into the gym. Imagine you're building a wall, and you have this artificial timeline that this wall has to be finished on. And that timeline doesn't coincide with how fast mortar dries. And so you're throwing bricks on a wall. You're putting down mortar, cement, and it's not drying, but you just keep piling up. That wall's going to just fall over. So when you go to the gym too soon, you're building on wet mortar. You haven't even recovered from the last workout. At 63 years old, I would have to train every 4 days if it wasn't for the things that I do to enhance recovery. This will enhance recovery. You'll be able to train more frequently, and you'll be training more frequently on a fully recovered muscle. And that is how it extrinsically influences the adaptation of strength and hypertrophy. Would you say that's accurate?
100%. So I believe his name was Rob. Rob touched on this before. You guys were talking about this about, it's not overtraining, it's under recovery. And
right.
That's 100% it, right? So if, and they always say this in professional sports, when we would have the guys come back from the league and they would train, it was, the real seasons are not won in season. They're won during the off season. So it's like, who can train the hardest, who can train the fastest, who can train the most. That's when the season's won. So whoever's recovering the fastest is the ones that are winning the games. So you're 100% right. If you can accelerate your body's ability to heal, then you can train more. And if you think about that over the course of a year, even in 6 months, right? If you get just one extra workout in every 2 weeks, I mean, that's another 25 workouts a year. Well, what are you gaining at those extra 25 workouts? Because that's actually a huge amount of extra output that somebody who's training for serious sport would benefit from. And I mean, another extra 25 workouts, I mean, that's huge. But more than just working out in accelerated recovery, what a lot of people don't know is that a low serum IGF-1 level is the precursor to a red flag to a lot of disease down the line. So it is, in most physicians, because they don't specialize in stuff like this right now, it's very common and very popular. And I'm not against them. I'm just saying what it is in the market of everybody's on testosterone replacement. And that has its place 1,000%. But they're missing these huge underlying factors like insulin growth factor 1, we'll talk about specifically. But IGF-1, low IGF-1 serum levels, and this is, you can Google this, you can do all the scientific research you want. There's so much out there, it's overwhelming. Low IGF-1 serum levels are directly related to pre-diabetic and diabetes conditions, and that is correlated directly to things like erectile dysfunction. So you can tie 33% of men who experience erectile dysfunction, and erectile dysfunction is 1 in every 3 guys. You look around you. If you're in your office right now, if you're in a car, turn to the left at the guy at the light and turn to the right. Because if it's 3 of you dudes, one of you is experiencing problems. It just is what it is. So, but low IGF-1 serum levels is literally in 33% of men is the cause for that erectile dysfunction. And the reason being is because IGF-1 is essential and responsible for blood sugar utilization. So if your body does not use blood sugar the correct way or in the right proportions, that is when all of these problems start arising. And physicians aren't, I'm not saying all, I'm saying commonly, they're not tying these back to the actual root cause. It's here's a pill, here's this, here's that. Or you just have diabetes. Now you're on, your insulin for your life. I will tell you from straight anecdotal research is guys who, you're in your 40s, you're in your mid 40s, even in your late 40s, 50s. You have that low energy, that low drive. You're gaining weight. You don't know why. You're watching your food. Maybe you're exercising. A lot of guys have no idea that their insulin is completely out of whack. The way that their body utilizes blood sugar isn't working. So the way that their body uses the food that they eat doesn't work, which directly correlates to all of these issues and workouts and training and recovery. Because if you can't use the food, you're out of luck.
I want to mention something. This is not just for guys. Growth hormone works for women too. Gail Kunley is asking me what intra-articular means, and I'll answer that. But women want thicker hair. They want thicker eyebrows. They want better skin. IGF-1 is magic when it comes to that. Turning over tissue, building new tissue. But intra-articular means they inject the growth hormone directly into the synovial capsule of the joint so that it stays there and works just on the chondrocytes. But everybody who uses growth hormone has healthy joints. I can tell you this for a fact. My knees, when I was training as a powerlifter, got destroyed until I started using growth hormone. And then when I started going back to the doctor, he'd say to me, wow, the arthritis looks like it's resolving in your knee. It's because it has the most profound effect on soft tissue. It has the most profound effect. So your joints will be healthier. But yes, it is magic for women as well. Now, the other thing I want to mention is a sense of well-being. When IGF-1 starts to drop, there's a lot of guys on TRT. They feel good the first 6, 7, 8 months, but then they just don't feel that good anymore. A lot of times it's because they don't have a in concert elevation of IGF-1 with their testosterone. IGF-1 also imparts a sense of well-being. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and actually, I wasn't expecting you to talk about that, but I got to be honest, it's awesome because what we have seen specifically with BioPro Plus from our physicians is that guys on testosterone replacement therapy actually get better results out of the TRT that they are on because of an absorption of that drug that they're on into their cells. So we include what's called we call it a genetic activator into our formula, but it helps the cell permeate. So the science is literally that the cell wall can permeate more effectively, meaning you can absorb those ingredients or nutrients or drugs into your cells more effectively. So what we're seeing is that guys are experiencing a better response into the TRT or with their TRT or bioidentical testosterone replacement therapies from their physicians with the use of this product. So that's what really helps us a lot with physicians is that you're able to use this in conjunction with those drugs or those therapies, and they work better. A lot of guys, we get questions like this all the time. It's probably one of our number one questions is, can I use this with TRT? Well, here's the thing. The answer is yes, number one. Number two is testosterone and growth hormone are two different hormones. Okay. So if you're doing one and not with the other, I mean, you're missing out on 50% of optimum performance or optimum quote unquote well-being from what you said, especially if you're looking for increases in weight loss or performance in the bedroom. You're missing out on half of your output.
Well, and bodybuilders discovered this early on. They learned that when you used anabolics with growth hormone, it wasn't a 1+1. It was like a 1 times 10. And if you used anabolics by themselves, or if you used growth hormone by itself, you didn't get the same results. Gail is asking, what about for women? Yeah. Growth hormone, women. So here's an interesting fact. Women are more responsive to growth hormone than men, unfairly. They not only have an affinity, the estrogen receptor loves growth hormone. And actually the estrogen receptor can be activated by growth hormone. Women pulse growth hormone naturally once every 1.5 hours. Men every 3 hours. Women tend to be more dependent and more responsive to growth hormone. So Gail, you will see results with this product. I can assure you of that.
I'd like to jump in there, Carl, if you don't mind, especially for women. So we're talking a lot about IGF-1, which is the most dominant growth factor in our formula. However, there are 12 other growth factors. And I think one of the key terms a lot of individuals, especially in the anti-aging space, they love to talk about is like collagen. Well, collagen are cells in your skin that help to tighten, elastic, and literally keep your skin full. Well, what tells collagen to even stimulate? What tells those collagen cells to multiply, to divide, to create? Guess what? It's a growth factor. So epidermal growth factor and fibroblast growth factor, both found in BioPro Plus, stimulate collagen synthesis and creation in your skin. So if you're looking for, wrinkles or skin elasticity, etc., you're literally taking those in. That's why your skin begins to sag and begins to wrinkle over time. You're not stimulating the same type amount of collagen cells that you used to, say, when you were 22. That's exactly coinciding with what you've been talking about, Carl, which is the decrease in growth hormone as you age. That is a direct relation to the decreasing in growth factors. Growth hormone is the hormone that is stimulated by the brain. It's then metabolized into growth factors. Growth factors are what is getting sent out into your blood to tell those cells to divide, to multiply, to grow. So if you don't have those cellular signaling devices, similarly or exactly like something to tell your collagen cells to stimulate, to grow, to multiply, then they don't. So when they die, the replication of those cells doesn't have enough to offset the cells that are dying. That is aging, and that's why your skin begins to sag and begins to wrinkle. So it's great for women.
And fibroblast growth factor is also responsible for new neuronal sprouting and nerve outgrowth. Think about this. As you age, your brain shrinks. Why? Because of a reduction in fibroblast growth factor availability in the body. As you age, you start to develop symptoms of nerve dysfunction. Why? Because there's not enough FGF to stimulate new nerve growth and neuronal sprouting. So this is another important thing that FGF does. I want to So Gail is asking, how do you buy it? Here's how you buy it. So you go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO. You use the code SHR30 for $30 off. Is this a 1 month supply, 28 vials?
Yep. It's 4 weeks, 1 month supply. The really cool thing is that when you get your kit, you actually can activate it with your smartphone, and it comes with it's completely free. It comes with a completely personalized profile. You track all of your doses. It'll message you every day when to dose. You actually, it takes you through the whole thing. It's super user friendly, and it keeps you on track so you never miss a dose. It's been really cool to add with this.
How much is a 30-day supply? A 28-day supply.
A 28-day supply is $299.99. So if you go online, it's going to be $299.99. And then if they use your discount code SHR30, they're going to get $30 off their first month. So they're going to save,
You offer a subscription discount. If somebody says, I want to go ahead and get this every month, do they get a discount for that?
No, we don't do subscription services. We want people to, to purchase as necessary and to take part in that without having them be automatically signed up for anything. It's completely up to them. The cool part about the app is that as you're running low, it's going to let you know, hey, it's time now to jump in, go grab another kit. So it shows up perfectly in time with when you finish your last vial, and then you got your next kit ready to go.
Now, a lot of people are going to say, wow, this is really expensive. But if you really do believe that growth hormone has a value, I can tell you that with my prescription, I pay $700 a month for growth hormone. And that's just taking 1 IU a day, 5 days
a deal.
week.
That's a deal.
I get it from a compounding pharmacist.
Yeah.
And so I'm not buying a brand name, like Umatrope or something like that. But also the other thing is it's actually 0.8 IU 5 days a week.
Which is very little. To be honest, that's very little. Most guys who are taking, growth hormone can take anywhere from 5 to 10 IUs a day.
That is way too much. Those are the doses that cause joint
100%.
crowding. They cause so one of the phenomenons of growth hormone we learned from people who have giantism, you can call it, but they usually have a pituitary adenoma that overproduces growth hormone. They always have big bulbous joints, because that is cartilage overgrowth and it causes joint crowding. It's painful. They'll have really, really large brow. Their brow grows. They have big ball-shaped noses because the cartilage. Because remember, I said growth hormone.
Rib cage grows.
Yeah, the
rib cage expands.
And they die young. And bodybuilders use insane doses of growth hormone, 5 to 10 IUs a day, but not forever. Just for the cutting phase to lose body fat. But the rest of the year, if they are using growth hormone, using more sensible 2 IUs a day. But A4M was the first one that came out with a protocol for anti-aging. 0.8 IUs a day, 5 days a week, take the weekends off. And that's what I do. I observe that. But think about it. It still cost me $600 a month to do that.
Yeah.
This is half the price for the same amount of growth factor, if you will. Let's think of it that way. So if you really do believe that growth hormone can help you, then this is the way to go after it.
I always tell people, I'm like, hey, do your own research, do your own thing. One thing we are not short on are physician and user testimonials. I always let all of those guys do all the work for us, because the testimonials from docs and from users and patients we have so much, we don't even use it all. Like of all the video, I mean, they come in all the time, and it's really exceptional. I couldn't be happier with the type of response we get from patients and from physicians. If we didn't, nobody would buy this stuff.
It also needs to be said that when Tim, you and I hopped on the phone the first time, I said to you, do you have any blood work to show me? And then you sent me a schwack of lab results from people's before and after, before I would allow you to come on the show and talk to my audience. So I had to believe that it really worked, and it really does. Every single lab report he sent me, obviously the names of the people were blacked out, redacted, as they say. And you could see initial IGF-1 level, 64. After using the product, 280. I mean, it's like, it isn't just marginal. It's exceptional changes in IGF-1 levels in their body. So we made sure that the product worked before we said we would promote it to our audience. And I want everybody to know that. I've already done the due diligence. It's a great product. I'm going to promote it one more time. We have one last question before we pull the plug on this interview.
Sure.
So the product is called BioPro Plus, bioidentical alternative to human growth hormone injections. You go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO, use code SHR30 and save $30 off your box today. And let's see, we have one last question here that really isn't Johnny Gentry. For arthritis, how many IUs of GH do you use, Slim Pin or Sub-Q? If you want to have an overall effect on cartilage, soft tissue on your body, you'd have to probably use about 2 IUs a day, and you'd have to use it consistently for months and months and months. Otherwise, if you can find a good, I know there's a doctor up in Columbus. He has a facility called Inertia, and he's carrying on some of Dr. Dunn's work where he's actually doing the intra-articular growth hormone injection. So you may want to look for him because it's not something you should endeavor on your own, to be honest with you. But that's it. And then Gail Cunley says, is there an insurance code that I might bill for reimbursement? Interesting. Any ideas?
We actually get that question a lot. To answer your question, no. Unfortunately, in the anti-aging space and products like this, they are, as most physicians are in this space, it's cash pay, right? They're not exactly covered by insurance. Most really good stuff typically isn't. But no, unfortunately, there is not a cash pay for reimbursement at this juncture.
Right. And
which is crazy because if you really look at the science behind growth factor use, like you were talking earlier about this, and I was like pulling up studies, but because you jumped into nerve stuff, and I know you're trying to go, but it's really important for people, like regardless of my product. I mean, forget about my product. I'm saying in general, the type of uses for growth factors are exceptional. When you start to look at the growth factor use and scientific study behind neurological disorders and diseases like Parkinson's, ALS, MLS, I mean, it's huge. There's more science. It's overwhelming. So if you haven't looked in this stuff, or you have it, even if you have family members with like ALS or MLS or experiencing Parkinson's, like these are things you need to check out before it gets too late. Because it's really overwhelming, the type of science that's behind this type of stuff. It's pretty incredible.
There are studies that show that people who develop heart problems, specifically heart muscle problems, respond very, very well to IGF-1. The IGF-1 repolarizes the cardiomyocytes, because when you start to develop pathological changes in the heart, the fibers get out of a line with each other, and instead of looking like nice bricks in a muscle, they end up getting like lumpy and bumpy, and they don't pull right, and IGF-1 reverses that, at least in rodents. But anyway, let's see here. Last thing, Horn Frog says, "Great show, Carl. Please keep doing what you're doing." Thank you, and I will. All right, so there you go. shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO. How long do you see people using it before they say, I feel something?
That's a great question. So number one, the first thing that I would say is that it depends on the symptoms that you're experiencing from whatever you're suffering from. Okay. But the most common answer to that is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Everybody, and I would say that this is most individuals who have the same response are over the age of 40. Okay. And they will immediately say, I felt it in 2 weeks. I felt it in 2 weeks. And these are unrelated individuals from all over the country. Right. Always 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It just takes time. I think 2 weeks is great, but it just takes time for cells to react. It's not it's not caffeine. It's not a drug that immediately changes your brain to go, oh, I'm on it. Right. The cells have to move. They have to multiply. They have to divide. Your body has to be reoptimized. But to answer your question, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is always the answer. So
there you go. You buy it, you try it. And if you're one of those people who responds in 2 weeks, then you got it. And if you're not, don't give up, because in my experience, I don't notice anything when I start using growth hormone, because I take off from time to time. And it takes me probably a good month and a half. But then the other thing is when you use growth factors, and if you stop, the changes don't go away immediately. They stay with you for months sometimes before they start to go back to where they were. Have you found that?
Yeah. So again, depends on the system, or the symptom, right? If you're using it for a physical output or performance benefits, 100%, they're not just going to magically disappear. You've created new cells. They're not just going to dissipate.
Right.
When it comes from blood sugar utilization, that's a little bit different because your body's being told consistently how to utilize that the blood sugar until your body starts to adapt and start to do it appropriately with lifestyle changes. I love what you said about, taking it and then you come off growth hormone, et cetera. One of the funnest things that we do, or the type of feedback that we get, is typically with guys or anybody under the age of 40 when they start to utilize the product. Is we'll get calls or messages or whatever. And it's like, I didn't feel anything. I don't like it. Okay, I totally understand. I'm sorry to hear that. It's working even if you don't feel it because your cells are adapting. And then you'll get that message from the same exact person 2 weeks later that have been off of the product for 2 weeks and gone back to their training regimen, or they're back to their old life, or whatever sport they're involved in, whatever weekend warrior. And they're like, I was wrong. I feel how I felt before I started using the product now. And now I feel the differences because they didn't realize how well it was working. They just stopped feeling what they were feeling from a pain or from a soreness experience before. They come off for 2 weeks. In that second week, they start really feeling like, oh man, I'm really sore, or I forgot that I was feeling that. And then they call us back, and then they're on for life. They're lifers for good. That's
Right.
That's probably one of the most fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Dustin, thanks for being here, first of all. Thank you for being a sponsor, secondly. And for the audience out there, one last time, shrnetwork.biz/biopro, BIOPRO. Use the code SHR30, save $30 off. Give it a try. I want to hear your feedback. Those of you who buy it, I want to hear from you. We may have you on the show. You never know. All right.
Thanks, Carl. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Dustin. And that's it for today. Tomorrow's show is going to be at a special time at 6 p.m. because I'm interviewing a scientist from Perth, Australia. It'll be 6 a.m. his time, about a study he did showing that a 3-second negative builds more muscle than concentric work, than static work, or anything else. This feeds right into the whole ARX machine that I've been using and experimenting with. So if you're around at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, we have a special treat for you. You'll be able to watch the show. Thank you, Gail. And, of course, thank you, R. Vasquez 818. Okay, see you tomorrow. Take care.